Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. In this video we are going to be going over the forum post that was made by GR Scopely, who is a community manager, and this is an update to the combat AI changes and their plans for the future. So first up, I'm just going to read through the entire post. I'm not going to break anything down, I'm just going to go through everything and then I'll come back and break each bit down individually. So it says, survivors, it's been 2 weeks since we have updated the combat AI and we owe everyone an update on what we have learned about the change so far and our next steps. After the AI update, we heard that the overall offensive combat experience had become more challenging than before. The goal of these changes was to improve AI performance, enable the AI to use different defensive strategies, and make for an overall better gameplay experience. After our initial investigation, here is what we've learned so far. So the initial investigation says within the first week, we saw defense team performance increased across all players, and offense team performance decreasing by approximately the same amount. In the following week, as everyone began learning how the new AI behaves, we saw a sizable improvement in offense teams' performance across all players. In light of players demonstrating improvement, we want to continue to monitor combat performance data to determine next steps with regards to the AI specifically. We want to be careful and avoid making any premature changes that will negatively impact the combat experience. The next bit talks about the next war, which is this upcoming weekend's cross-region war. We are going to make some adjustments to the next war to increase attack advantage and provide a more dynamic combat experience. The changes you can expect to see to the strongholds in this weekend's war are: Mansion fast attackers receive plus 20% attack, Weaponsmith strong attackers gain 40 crits, and Water Tower tough attackers receive plus 5 AP per attack, I would assume. After the war, we will continue to monitor both the data and everyone's feedback to ensure that we are providing the best battle experience we can and make adjustments if necessary. The last part says, thank you. We cannot thank everyone enough for your loyalty and patience with us as we continue to build out this game. Your feedback is invaluable and we encourage everyone to keep letting us know about your experiences. Thank you all for making this such an awesome community to be a part of. Thanks, the Walking Dead team. So that's the full statement, and now I'm going to break it down. So we're going to read through it again, but I'm going to give my thoughts on pretty much every single part. I did do this at length in my live stream. It did get a bit ranty and I did maybe go off the rails a little bit in terms of what I started talking about, but we're going to try and keep it as compact as possible right now. So the first part here, it says, after the AI update, we heard that the overall offensive combat experience had become more challenging than before. Now, I wouldn't really say it had become more challenging. It basically had actually limited the amount of characters that you could use. So before, let's say if you had 10 usable characters in your raid attack teams, it potentially limited it down to 7. Now, with those 7, you also had to take one character in particular because that character was keeping certain important characters alive. So for me, I had to take a shield on my attack teams, because if I didn't take a shield, and I've tested this out quite thoroughly, the damage dealers that I have in my team, even with defense mods, even defensively geared, will get annihilated by defensive defense team characters. They will not focus people based on trait damage either. I did this in a test earlier on my stream where I came up against a team with a defensive lineup and they had 4 fast characters, and those 4 fast characters decided to focus a strong character where I had 1 tough character in my team. So it's not really much of a challenge to try and work out what the AI is going to do. It has become very, very basic in terms of what the AI is going to do. And that leads on to the next bit where it says the goal of these changes was to improve AI performance, enable the AI to use different defense strategies, and make for an overall better gameplay experience. Well, I would say you've done one thing here correctly. The goal of these changes was to improve the AI performance. The AI performance has definitely improved, but I think the AI performance would have improved with just the basic changes that were introduced with the AI changes. Not a lot of people have noticed these because their teams are getting destroyed so quickly, they haven't noticed the attack orders, the rush orders. They're getting massively annoyed by dogpiling. The second part saying enable the AI to use different defense strategies. I have not seen one other strategy than dogpile. They just go for the one with the highest attack stat. There is literally one defense strategy right now. No diversity, no depth. The game used to be a bit about diversity and depth. Now it's not. And this is one of the things that it had going for it, and it hasn't anymore. And then the last bit, it says, and make for an overall better gameplay experience. I probably would say it does make for an overall gameplay experience improvement for maybe the top 1%, because they've got characters that can do 3 or 4 things. Their rushes control, damage, and debuff at the same time. Whereas the majority of characters that are in game that are widely available only do one thing. They might debuff, they might control, they might buff. They don't do all of these things in one rush, and they don't have 5 characters doing 3 different things in one rush. Basically, the easiest experience you can have in this game is having multiple of these characters. The majority of people in this game are playing the game in hard mode, and that was hard mode before these AI changes even came out. So the next part, it says the initial investigation, it says within the first week we saw defense team performance increased across all players, the offense team performance decreasing by approximately the same amount. I think this is pretty obvious. A lot of people didn't really test this until it got to war, and you saw a lot of people leaving the game because of this, because their main experience of the game is war in terms of what they enjoy, and it was one of the first wars where they possibly couldn't even enjoy it. Personally, I don't enjoy war massively. I think it's a very massive time sink for what you get back, but for me it's very different. Because I have a YouTube channel, I dedicate a lot of time to this. I can't really dedicate huge amounts of time to warring like other people can. Although I have done it in the past, so I can completely understand the enjoyment there. But when that enjoyment has been taken away, what is there to play for these players? What is there to do? There's not much to do. So that defense team performance increase and offense team performance decrease had a massive result in terms of people's enjoyment that weekend, and thus them just instantly quitting the game based on all the issues that have been going on recently. And not just the last 2 weeks, the last month. We're talking about the last 6 months, the last 12 months. All these things stack up. All these things are always in the back of people's minds. So the second one massive change comes in, which drastically changes their gameplay, their fun, their enjoyment, especially surrounding a part of the game they really, really like, they will leave. And they did in droves. We saw a lot of people leaving the game. Maybe for short term, maybe for long term, maybe forever. We don't know. And that leads on to the next part. It says, in the following week, as everyone began learning how their new AI behaves. I just want to break that bit down first. The AI only behaves one way. You could learn it after the first raid. It focuses the person who can do the most damage. That is it. There is no in-depth thing here. You have not reinvented the wheel. If anything, this is the most basic level of AI you could ever introduce. Dogpiling someone who has the highest attack stat is as basic as it gets. I would actually go as far as to say the previous iteration of the AI, where it's randomly attacks, is probably more intricate, but it still could have been improved. But that's more intricate than dogpiling. Dogpiling is just basic, very easy to program. That would be like a first stage AI introduction. So in my mind, we've actually taken a step back rather than a step forward in terms of how the AI works. But now we'll continue into the second part, and it says, we saw a sizable improvement in offense team performance across all players. Lots of things to note here. Data never represents the entirety of what happens. You can always manipulate data to be how you want. Sure, no matter what AI changes you made, initially people would struggle. This is just generally how it works. No matter what AI changes you made, after that initial struggle, they generally recover. And what you're not taking into account, and I believe Lady Geek did touch on some of these subjects on this post, is that if all of those players that left because they don't have the tools to do some of the things to make it so they can actually succeed, i.e. a shield, if you've got a shield, you're instantly got a chance again, because they dogpile a shield and it actually protects that damage dealer. If you don't have a shield, and you're the players that have left, that's going to seem like the data, oh wow, there's suddenly a lot less defeats for these attack teams. They must be doing better as an entire player base. No, a lot of those players left. In like the first 24, 48 hours, a lot of those players left. And while we might see an improvement for offense team performance, does it improve my enjoyment of raids? No. Would it improve enjoyment of war? No. I'm having to take a shield personally, and that means I'm attacking with 4 characters now, effectively. So I'm attacking with less characters than I was before, against still the same very powerful defense teams. So yes, that's more challenging. If you would have not changed the AI and I would have taken 4 characters on my attack team, yes, very challenging, but stupid. If I was to take 3 characters, it would be a lot more challenging than 4 as well. Challenge should have some sort of counter, some sort of strategy around it. And forcing someone to take a particular character, i.e. a shield, on an attack team, which I've been forced to take, I've tried a multitude of different ways to be able to still take attacking characters, except for taking a defense team effectively on my attack, which I'm just not going to do. You've massively limited the actual strategical possibilities. As already mentioned, those players who have massive sizable promo rosters, they've got characters that do defensive, offensive, support, everything in one rush. I've got 3 characters that have the power of one of those rushes in terms of offensive, defensive, and buffing capability. I've played for a very long time. I have got a very good roster for how much I spent on the game since 6 stars came out. I've been, generally speaking, in an always good faction, so I have had people basically carrying me as I've been carrying them. Basically how factions work, we all help each other out. Now there are people who are nowhere near in the same boat as me, and I'm frustrated. I cannot imagine what it's like for some of these people who have got nothing compared to what I have as a roster. So this last bit, it says, in light of players demonstrating improvement, we want to continue to monitor combat performance data to determine next steps with regards to the AI specifically. So what's being said here is, because performance is increased after an initial decrease, that somehow makes it okay. It's pretty obvious that people are not enjoying the game as they were before. Regardless of if the changes you think are correct or good, it's pretty obvious that the amount of players playing the game compared to then is down. You can probably see that on logins or time played. A lot of different statistics there as well. There's lots of data you can look at. But one of the data points that you cannot track is enjoyment, except for people on the forums and what they're saying. Me specifically, I don't make videos just complaining about anything. But this is a terrible, terrible change. It is going to drive people away, short term and long term, and because a lot of the parts of the game will not be updated, I'm talking about world map and roadmap. For new players, you're getting dogpiled in world map right now. Now when you're going into it initially as a new player, 3 stars are getting annihilated by getting dogpiled every single stage. And guess what? They don't have revives. An early failure, I think you probably know this more than anyone, early failure in a gameplay experience puts people off playing that game quite early. Now this is the last bit when it comes to the initial investigation. I thought this one was good because, let's just read it through it. We want to be careful and avoid making any premature changes that will negatively impact the combat experience. So what's funny about this part is that the initial change of changing the AI to what it is right now has negatively impacted the combat experience. Like what has already been done has already done this. You'd actually do better off in terms of increasing the majority of players' enjoyment by just reverting the basic attack AI to what it was before. I think the rush AI is brilliant. I think you should be punished if rushes go off. They should go off in the correct order, but dogpiling on basic attacks is the only complaint that I can see. It ignores trait damage, which I've said before just doesn't make any sense, especially how the game's always been made. It's basically the most important part of the game is how characters perform trait damage. And as you saw in that little clip before, 4 fast characters ignored a tough character to take out a strong character because it had the highest attack stat. Now in most teams, the highest attack stat is a glass cannon attacking character. Now I took a very defensive team there as a very funny example, because Wyatt actually has 2,500 defense as well, because he's behind a defense leader. So while this has opened up how defense teams can work, it has limited how attack teams can work. And there is one thing we all know about how Road to Survival, and is undebatable. We do not experience defense teams in our first-hand gameplay. If you've bought a defensive character who's good on defense teams, you've likely never used that character before. Whereas if you've bought an attacking character that you can use on your attack team, you use it every single time you attack. It is your first-hand gaming experience, and it's what you enjoy. Defends are literally a line of text in the war log. Attacks is your actual gameplay experience. If your defense is losing, it might be a bit disappointing, but you're not going to be that frustrated. It also gives you ideas to try and work with small things. If your attack is consistently losing, you're going to stop playing because that's your first-hand gaming experience. Now the towers for this weekend are of course offensive. They aren't hugely offensive towers, but they are offensive. It's just great they're not defensive, but it would have been better that we had a no tower weekend. That way it wouldn't skew the data in any single way in terms of how the AI works. Right now, it is skewing the data, even if very slightly, in how the AI is going to work. I'm not sure how in-depth the data recording is, but if you can, try and check out how many people are using shields on their attack team compared to before, and just realize that using shields on your attack team is not what people generally want to do. They want to have 5 characters that are going to make their attack better. A shield is not a usable character. People are putting shields in their team to stop terrible basic attack AI that has been introduced. And I want to just say, I really do hope you enjoy this weekend's cross-region war. However, if you do not, come to the forums, voice your concern in as a polite way as you can possibly. If you attack other users who are saying something that's different to you, or if you attack Scopely directly, that is not the way to get things done. As it says here, it says after the war, we will continue to monitor both the data and everyone's feedback to ensure that we are providing the best battle experience we can and make adjustments if necessary. So if you are not enjoying your experience, regardless of being victorious, regardless of hitting certain milestones, it is about enjoyment. That is the most important thing about a game. It really is. So if you're not enjoying the new AI experience, or what the new AI experience is forcing you to do in terms of changing your team to a way that you don't want to, limiting the characters that you can use drastically, come to the forums and respond to a post that has already been made. So that's the end of my video, guys. I hope War Weekend is good for you. I'll see you on the other side. I'll be doing a live stream on Tuesday as a post-war live stream as usual. And I just hope that I'm going to be having some happy people coming into that stream this time round, rather than last time where I had some very disappointed people, and that was really sad for me. But that's it in my video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.